I can't believe you just said the words, things are popping off.
Yeah, that's something I said. Welcome to episode 7 of The Idiot's Odyssey. I'm Fergal O'Connor.
And I'm Eoin Murphy.
Let's get into some headlines.
The day that we've prayed for has arrived. Spider-Man is back at Marvel.
James Gunn talks about his love for Fat Pratt.
Neil Blomkamp's got big ideas for Alien. And Fox are game ball.
Ava DuVernay might not be getting an Oscar, but she is getting her own TV series. Bradley Cooper's psychic powers might lead him to star in a film of a book that isn't even out yet.
After more than a decade, Jon Stewart has called it a day for The Daily Show.
The Martin Scorsese directed Ben Wheatley thriller Free Fire has been picked up by Sony. Ken Jeong is to write, star in and produce his own medical comedy, Dr. Ken, for ABC. Prepare for multiple orgasms and 6-foot dicks as Universal announced 50 Shades of Grey sequels and IMAX screenings.
Hitman Agent 47 and Straight Outta Compton trailers have been released. Better Call Saul debuted and The Walking Dead returned, both of which we'll be covering.
And finally, I'll be discussing America's habit of kidnapping South Korean film directors.
What? And we're headlining with Spider-Man returning to Marvel. Now, he is going to be in the Marvel universe, but it's going to be still distributed and financed and everything by Sony, but they're going to work with Marvel to incorporate him into into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I'm like, basically, might I be the first to say yay?
Yeah, I mean, it's terrific. It's terrific. This is the stuff we've wanted for so long.
Yeah, it's not like I believe that Spider-Man is going to make the Marvel Cinematic Universe any better, to be honest.
I think it will. I like Spider-Man's my favorite Marvel character, and I'm delighted to have him in it. And I think he can push it on a bit more. You know, I mean, if there was an ingredient missing, it's there.
Yeah, it's like, from my point of view, I think they'd be doing fine without Spider-Man.
Don't get me wrong, I think they'd be doing fine, but this doesn't hurt.
Yeah. The nice thing is that finally Sony might actually stop making shitty Spider-Man films.
And speaking of shitty Spider-Man films, Mark Webb and Andrew Garfield are actually out of it. So they're not in the director's chair and they're not in the suit anymore.
Yeah, which I never thought Andrew Garfield did a bad job.
I never thought it, but unfortunately, like, he's basically just a stain from from the previous.
Yeah, he's tainted goods.
Like, yeah, that's exactly he's a tainted Spider-Man, and he's always going to be associated with those two films.
Yeah, it's like Mark Webb and Amy Pascal are like sort of a real life Venom that have wormed their way into Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, that's just the sad truth of it. There is apparently rumours that he'll be in high school and all this, which is of course the origins of Spider-Man. But I don't want another origin story like.
Yeah, because it's not like they've done Spider-Man being bitten by a spider and having to watch his Uncle Ben die before.
Now, I just want to throw one out at you. This is one I heard somewhere. I can't remember where. I saw it somewhere. That maybe they could do what they did with Hulk. Right? And that Hulk had his origin story, his second one, in the Incredible Hulk, the one with Edward Norton in it.
Yeah.
And while this is never really acknowledged or something, it is. And they did change the actor who plays the Hulk. It's very much, that's his origin story. You don't need to go back to it.
Yeah, which is nice.
So maybe they might do something similar with Spider-Man, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, all these kind of high school rumours, let's say, they make it sound like they're going for another origin story, which maybe they're smart enough not to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that'd be nice, because I've had quite enough of Uncle Ben. It's like, I just wish he just stayed fucking dead at this point, to be honest.
Jesus, man.
They'd stop by pulling him out of the grave and shooting him again.
But, of course, we haven't completely ruled out that maybe they might not go for a white actor. Maybe they'll go for using the Spider-Man character of Miles Morales.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, whether they use Peter Parker or Miles. What was the second name?
Morales, I think.
Yeah, if they use Miles Morales, just because it's the same basic premise of a kid fighting crime, and
it would be a twist, but it wouldn't be an interesting enough twist for us to care. I mean, you could say Peter Parker's been run down to the ground, but at the same time, not really. Like, I mean, you could say the same thing about any character, really.
Well, at the same time, Peter Parker hasn't had his fair shake yet, I feel. Because, I mean, he might have been run down to the ground, but he was run down to the ground in really shitty films.
There's been
Okay,
out of five. There's been 3 good films, I'd say.
Well, I don't know about good, man.
Okay, there's been 2 good films.
See, my scale of Spider-Man films is there's the mess Spider-Man films, and then there's the bad Spider-Man films, and then there's the shithouse Spider-Man films. There are 3 shithouse Spider-Man films.
Well, moving beyond your disdain for the Spider-Man films anyway, but apparently the rumours are that Spider-Man will appear he'll make his Marvel debut, if you will, in Captain America Civil War. So the Captain America Civil War will now have Captain America, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. Damn, that's an interesting looking film. If that's true, and of course these are only rumours at this stage, that would be some serious cast there.
Definitely, yeah. Although it sounds like they're picking these random kids for Spider-Man
Yeah,
who I don't care about.
Thing.
And I still, I haven't lost respect for Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans or anything like that. It's just, maybe they've tapped every actor who could be brought in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe without completely overstuffing it.
Yeah, I can see your point there. But there has also been rumours. I'm not sure how heavy they've been, but it's kind of like it's the logical thing of maybe to introduce him in like the Doctor Strange movie, because Doctor Strange doesn't have that great a following.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man would pull anyone into anything, especially like seeing him have his Marvel debut.
Yeah.
So it might be possible to throw him into the Doctor Strange film, but it's less likely, I think.
Yeah, but they could just throw him in anywhere. I feel like Civil War is a natural point to throw him in. Just because I think he already exists within that storyline. Plus, the key point here is that this is just the perfect time in the franchise to introduce him. Because it feels like if Civil War here means what Civil War generally does, then this is a time where the dynamics of the team are changing anyway, which is a good time to introduce a new character.
You don't know much about it from the comics, do you?
So I know that there's a Superhuman Registration Act, and then the superheroes broke into 2 halves, somewhere on the side of the government and somewhere not on the side of the government. So basically you don't know what Spider-Man happens. I know he has a big part in kind of kicking things off.
He's got a significant part in like trying to change people's views of it.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't want to spoil it because I assume it's still worth the read. But he's got really importance, and there was always this question of like this role had to be filled somehow.
Yeah.
When they didn't realize when they thought they wouldn't be getting Spider-Man, but now that they have got him more than likely will fill that role, unless they kind of create a twist where they don't do it, as in they change our expectations.
Which is totally a thing they could do.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, and
although I don't think they've been massively into subverting people's expectations so far.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know because I don't follow the comics. I mean, like, there probably is some forum somewhere where you can check up and people are all like, they changed this, and this, and these films are completely different to the storyline.
The thing is, this is expected because they're not in the same universe. They're based on them, but the thing is, they're also based on the Marvel Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, but I feel like again, you're going into this idea of how do we make the best film.
Yeah.
And how do we make the best film for the most people? And I feel like if you're trying to do that, in a strange way, you don't think about what the fans want. You think about what's best for the film.
Exactly, that's the thing.
Because what the fans want, one, they might not know what exactly they actually want.
That's a true story.
2,
there.
people will complain about any change, like anything.
So what you're saying is you can't appeal, you can't satisfy everyone at the same time.
Yeah, and number 3, the Marvel films have become such huge studio tempos that this is about way more than a bunch of comic book geeks. This is about the audience as a whole.
Those are really good points, actually. Now, as a result of this movement around of Spider-Man, or connections between the 2 things, Sinister 6 has been delayed anyway. I don't know, this is probably good news, to be honest.
Yeah, thank Christ. I mean, like,
It was just a weird concept, like.
oh, plus the end of if a Sinister Six film showed up, all I could think about is the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which may have been the worst
Frustrating,
moment in a franchise that was slowly spiraling towards a kind of undignified death.
Yes. Jesus, that was a bit over the top. But
I really don't like what Sony was doing to Spider-Man.
So Sinister Six has been delayed, but also because of this movement around. I don't know how this is working out, but basically, a few things have been moving around in the Marvel universe. Thor 3 or Thor Ragnarok, I think it's called, has been moved by about 5 or 6 months, and Inhumans has also been moved about the same time. So it's caused a bit of movement, but nothing horrible. But I don't know why, but still. But here's my point to you. Do you think that they're in a hell of a lot safer hands, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely. Although that being said, I mean, Marvel have fumbled the ball from time to time.
Well, yeah, I mean that's fair enough.
It's they made Captain America 1, and then they made Thor: The Dark World, which was
Well, you see, the thing is that Captain America 1, I will defend. I mean, it wasn't great. I thought it was okay, but this was one. It was basically a period drama or a period action film, which is always a bit of a weird thing to try and get into.
yeah.
So, and they had to do it like that because that was his origin story. So, that's that. Now, Thor: The Dark World, I think they kind of suffered because Thor isn't the biggest name that they have in the Avengers.
He's not the biggest name, but they still did a fine job on Thor 1.
True.
Which with Kenneth Branagh, which kind
Although
of brought that drama to
I'll
it.
concede myself now, I didn't actually see Thor: Dark World yet.
Yeah, it's just as well. It's not even
that's
horrible.
basically that's why I didn't go to see it. It's just this meh thing going around.
Exactly. It's like I see no reason to recommend Thor to anyone. It's like and that's almost the most insulting thing about it. I can barely remember anything about the film. I could barely remember anything about the film when I'd walked out of the cinema.
Jesus, that's horrifying. But getting back to it, it does look like Spider-Man will be introducing this, but he will still continue with his own solo film. So I'm happy.
And I'm just happy Sony won't be able to ruin Spider-Man anymore. So James Gunn was a guest on Alison Rosen's podcast this week, and he talked about how after Chris Pratt had put on a bunch of weight for Delivery Man, Kevin Feige basically sat Pratt down before they gave him the Guardians of the Galaxy role and told him, "You have to lose weight if we are going to give you this."
I always heard it was different. I
Yeah.
always heard that he was okay with whatever weight he had.
Yeah,
But I also thought he already had the weight from his job at Parks and Recreation.
well, here's the interesting thing. It's he put on extra weight.
Oh, he put on
for
extra
the Delivery
weight.
Man role. Yeah, so he was coming in. He was a big boy, and then Kevin and Lou from Marvel sat him down and said, "If you want to do this, you have to lose some weight." And if he showed up before filming and he still hadn't lost weight, then they always had the option to say, "We're going to go with someone else for this role." But
I don't think it would have been the same if they did.
Gunn later admitted, in kind of it was a sweet little moment of romance. That the secret that he didn't tell Chris until after they were done is that for him, he would have fought to keep Chris Pratt even if he was chubby because he was the best.
That's
It's like
beautiful.
he doesn't care if you're fat, Chris. He still loves you.
Just more of him to love. Okay.
Yeah. Plus, they already knew that he was able to cut down to that because he'd gotten buff as shit for Zero Dark 30.
So it was just a matter of if he could regain it, like
Yeah,
or
it's
return to it, I should say.
Exactly. It's like, genuinely, what fucking gym does Chris Pratt go to? Because whatever they're doing inside her works.
Staying in the world of science fiction, Neil Blomkamp had an interview with Uproxx, and in this interview he basically referred to some artwork, some alien-inspired artwork that had been floated about a few months ago, and about the possibility of actually returning to or going into this franchise, and it was very interesting what he had to say. Where you read it? What do you think?
It's guy did District 9, and he's doing concept art for Alien. Now, admittedly, there hasn't been a good Alien film in, 20, maybe 30 years?
I don't want to talk about it, man.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he was able to get a lot of shots done and a lot of work done on this idea because of the post-production delays in Chappie.
Yeah.
And he has spoken to Sigourney Weaver about it, and she apparently, they did want to do it together.
Yeah.
But apparently the whole thing is that Fox would do it in a minute. I think his quote is, "I'm the problem. Fox, they would make it. Like tomorrow, they would make it." And this is very interesting because it's basically saying, it sounds like the ball is in very much within his court, but he just doesn't want to do it right now,
Well, given the history of the Alien franchise, I'm not surprised, because...
Given the history of Fox.
Exactly. I mean, Alien 3 is... David Fincher was so upset with the way the studio handled him and the film on that he has had that film struck off his filmography.
I didn't know that now.
Yeah, like
So it doesn't show up there in the CV, is it?
Exactly. I
think he did basically disown that. But it would be very interesting to see Neil Blomkamp do it, and it sounds like he would like to do it, and Fox are completely game ball for it, so, Well, the thing is, like, Prometheus is right now still happening, and the Prometheus 2 will eventually come out, and you never know, as in we can't comment on how good or bad Prometheus 2 is until Prometheus 2 comes out, or whatever they call it. I think they can't call it Prometheus, like.
Yeah, we'll see how that one turns out. But, just getting back to this thing a moment, Blomkamp in the interview was talking about a certain resentment, or not necessarily resentment, he just doesn't like working within the Hollywood system because the amount of bullshit you have to put up with.
Yeah.
And whoever owns the Alien production rights, and maybe it's shifted since Alien 3, fucked David Fincher over so badly while he was making that film that he had to disown the thing. So, I mean, this would be Neil Blomkamp just walking into the kind of the heart of darkness of everything he hates about Hollywood, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know if there's any other studio that's kind of like been that kind of flaky about it,
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's one of the worst cases I've ever heard of it, especially since after after the way they approached it, they managed to completely mangle the film. Which, I mean, Alien 3 is dog shit. And
I think the basic way to kind of sum this up is that Fox are lying in bed ready and open, but he just doesn't want to hop into bed with them because he doesn't know what he's going to get out of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Neil Blomkamp doesn't want to deal with any of that crazy. Okay, so Ava DuVernay got massively snubbed for an Oscar this year, but there is a whole bunch of buzz around her, and CBS are giving her her own pilot to direct with For Justice. For Justice is based on the James Patterson novel, the Thomas Berryman number.
Cool.
And the plot of it is that, the pilot following a female FBI agent working in the criminal section of the Department of Civil Rights Division, who finds herself caught between her radical real family and her professional family.
So the cinema director is getting thrown back into more civil rights stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Huh.
Which
she's
shown she can handle material.
Yeah, exactly. She can do that.
It's part of a trend that, like, at first I wasn't sure if I was in favour of it, but lately TV series they've been pulling more and more from the world of cinema in order to populate their producers' chairs and directors' chairs.
What I'm interested in now, you say it was from a novel by James Patterson.
Yeah.
Is it a series of novels or just an individual novel?
I'm not sure. All I've got here is one novel, the Thomas Berryman number. Hollywood just wants to, like, put names on everything that people recognise. So this is why we have Netflix making their Game of Thrones style series and calling it Legend of Zelda.
Still kind of weird. I find that weird.
Nice to see that Ava DuVernay, even though the Academy may have screwed her over, the system's still giving her plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, you're not going to disappear because you didn't win something. You're going to disappear because you did something shit. But she didn't do something shit. She did something good, so she's being rewarded, basically.
Yep. Congrats. Now, moving on to Hollywood time travel news. Bradley Cooper is going to be starring in thriller Orphan X, which is an adaptation of a book that was released in February 2016.
Okay, I am very confused now. How exactly can you star in film? Now, so basically the screenplay is going to be written before the book is completed?
I don't know. Well, the guy who wrote the book is also writing the screenplay, apparently, so he's adapting his own work.
Maybe he should finish the novel before that.
Yeah, it might be an idea. The story centres on the world of human slavery, and it's about a guy who goes around helping people, sometimes helping them through violent means. Apparently, it's got a sci-fi bent to it, and that's all we really know. So
who's writing it? Sorry, who wrote the book and who's writing the? Yeah,
Greg Hurwitz.
Oh yeah.
This is a weird story. And I mean, I know Hollywood is trying to attach names to things, but this name has nothing behind it. So it's interesting in that if they're not seeing anything in the name and the numbers behind it of people buying the books, maybe there's actually something good in the material this time.
Do you think it's written in such a way that it is more designed for the screen rather than the bookshelf?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, this guy Greg Hurwitz, I know he's had a few spec scripts taken up already. Like, he's already inside in the script writing game as well as the book game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he'd been shopping this around already. But still,
it's a weird kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, selling it as a book and a screenplay simultaneously, I don't know if it's a stroke of genius.
Now, the thing is, this isn't that rare. I mean, it's a bit weird, but keep in mind, Game of Thrones will eventually, the actual TV show will eventually overtake the book. Keep in mind, we're mentioning this because we're not forgetting this, right?
Yeah.
And also, 2001: Space Odyssey was actually co-written in such a way, as in it was adapted for the book and adapted for the screen at the same time by Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick. So it's not unheard of, but at the same time, those were very much supposed to be coming out at the same time, and
okay,
that was a novelization of the film. You could argue.
I wasn't going to mention this.
Oh God!
But Todd Phillips is lined up to direct
as a Hangover guy.
As in the Hangover guy.
Yeah.
Which Todd Phillips, I'd hesitate to call him a Kubrick. A Kubrick.
Well, I'm not. That's not exactly what I meant.
But it's and with the Game of Thrones things, it's Game of Thrones had this massive following behind it. I mean, this thing's coming out of nowhere. Well,
it could surprise us all, is what I'm saying. It will be interesting to see Bradley Cooper reunite with the Hangover director.
Yeah, well, the one thing is that I wouldn't actually be surprised, because there's clearly something inside the material, because they're not going after this book to pull in the book audience when it's time to bring
so what you're saying is it hasn't got a name. It hasn't got the name attached to it. It hasn't got the actual audience attached to it. So it must be because it's actually a good story.
Yeah, they must. That's
a fair logic.
Concept. Plus, it's called Orphan X, and that name is kind of rad as shit.
Cool. After more than 15 years of involvement, Jon Stewart has announced that he'll be leaving the Daily Show. Now, we're not sure when, but it'll probably be within this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart is kind of a big deal within, let's say, subversive political comedy.
Yeah, very much. It's like he's actually done some interviews with the president as well. So it'll be odd to see him go, but sure, that's the way it is. And I think the rumors are that he'll probably be moving on to doing more directing, because I think he directed his first film.
Rosewater, yeah, I think that was actually received pretty well. I haven't seen it, but more bad. Again, this
has never been. It was never announced. That's not what he announced he was going to be doing, but it's one of the it's speculation.
Yeah, so I suppose he's got something lined up beyond this, and hopefully they'll find someone to host the Daily Show who can kind of live up to his legend.
Well, I'm sure they won't have too much from him. I mean, they do have a very wide and fantastic array of talent at their disposal, so hopefully he won't be missed too much.
Hopefully. News came out of Berlin Film Festival this week that Sony are after acquiring the Ben Wheatley thriller, executive produced by Martin Scorsese, Free Fire. Just to break this down for you, the cast is Luke Evans, Armie Hammer. Side note, Armie Hammer might have the most manly name in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy and Olivia Wilde. For those of you not familiar with Ben Wheatley, he did Kill List a few years ago, which was one of the most... It was simultaneously a weird sort of cult horror film and just a tight assassin thriller, and it sort of clashed those two together. And I'm very excited to see this one, see where he took this Free Fire stylistically. And it should be coming out this spring. I recommend going to watch it, just check it out.
Okay, so that's your recommendation, is it?
That's it. That's my view on it. So Ken Jeong is set to star, produce, and write the ABC medical comedy pilot Dr. Ken.
Really?
Yeah, ABC are after giving him the green light this week, and he'll be playing a frustrated HMO doctor juggling his career, marriage and parenting, and succeeding at none of them.
As in Kim Jong from the Hangover thing?
That's the guy.
Well, that should make it a hell of a lot easier, seeing as that you probably won't have to learn a lot of lines there.
What?
Because, he's a doctor as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I suppose that makes a lot of sense.
He did that before he was an actor, as in he was a doctor, and then he wanted to do some acting.
Yeah.
Although he'll still have to actually learn all the lines, but he'll actually have some clue what he's actually saying.
Well, I guess this is an interesting thing. I mean, it's always been a thing that medical consultants are involved in medical dramas or comedies or whatever. But I don't know if there's ever been one written by an actual doctor before. So
yeah, it's very interesting. But it's also been a while since we actually saw a medical comedy. I mean, there hasn't been a really good one since Scrubs, has there?
Yeah, and I mean Scrubs.
Scrubs was pretty damn good,
Yeah, but it did not die a dignified death.
Well, okay, if you ignore that half season, that was season 9, that was absolute shite, then it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I can go along with that. Actually, don't know, maybe MASH was another medical comedy. I mean,
yeah, but there hasn't been one.
Yeah,
but MASH came before.
Oh yeah, but I know the point is, it's not a genre that's being pumped completely dry of humour.
No, not yet. Hopefully not, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise this is going to be a fucking short series. Another week, another batch of 50 Shades of Grey stories.
Oh, Lord.
This week we have 50 Shades of Grey director Sam Taylor Johnson saying that both sequels are going to be made into films in news that is going to shock and surprise absolutely fucking no one.
Yeah, this isn't surprising at all. I mean, they're going to draw in all the audience. They're going to get all their money from the thing, whether it's good or not. They're going to get their bloody money back.
Yeah,
tenfold at minimum.
Exactly. I'm surprised that
so will the other two. Let's be honest.
I'm surprised that they didn't just divide 50 Shades of Grey into 2 25 Shades of Grey films. Because I mean, it's the same thing that they're doing with Mockingjay and such. But I think the idea there is let's lure people in first with the first film, and then when they're committed, then we can start dividing our films into 2 and 3 and 4, and just rake in the money. That's actually working really well for the Hunger Games right now.
Well, I assume will they keep the same director and stuff?
I don't know. There's been no talk on the production yet, and I assume that's going to depend on the box office reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And such. Plus, 50 Shades of Grey is going to be shown at IMAX screens.
Yeah, so as in high definition dongs, is it?
Yeah, they're basically. If you have an IMAX screen in your local area, you can go there and watch giant dongs.
Lovely.
Although having read some reviews, apparently you only see it for a second.
Right. Well, that's disappointing to no one here, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised that the people producing this film thought that the people who want to go 50 Shades of Grey would be interested in 6-foot cocks.
He is, of course, talking about when he's magnified up to the big screen. Everyone calm down, right? And in other news, the trailer for Hitman Agent 47 was released. And it was, pretty decent. Like it was silly, but and there was a lot of explosions and guns, but it looked like it was a higher intensity than the first one, I suppose.
Yeah, the thing that I wrote in my note for this, like, potential guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I could definitely. Yeah,
this thing, like, very rarely have I seen a trailer that celebrates the film's stupidity as much as this one does.
But it's who's starring it?
Rupert Friend, I think, is playing 47.
Oh, cool.
And then Zachary Quinto was playing a guy who's not 47.
Yeah, I don't care.
That's okay. I'm like, hey, go watch it. I'm like, it's... Okay, but this is dumber than Fast and Furious films.
Really? Yeah, I suppose you're right. But
it's like, this is really suited. To be honest, the first Hitman was like, it sat in guilty pleasure.
I quite liked Timothy Oliphant in it.
Yeah,
and especially seeing that I've watched a few episodes of Justified, but at the same time I can see why they might change it up purely to get a different kick in it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, maybe Timothy Oliphant was busy or something, because he was...
I think he actually took the role originally. This is the rumor now. I think that he took the role originally in the first one because he wanted to get the money to pay for his house.
That makes a lot of sense, because there's actually a lot to love in a so bad as good way in the first Hitman. I'm like, especially I can't remember the actor's name, but one of the dodgy Russian accents in it. Yeah. The guy running the nightclub is absolutely superb.
Wasn't that Desmond from Lost, basically?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Name escapes me at the moment, but this one definitely looks pretty impressive. But we'll see. It's definitely probably going to be just a city film.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch this film drunk and it will actually be better. Yeah, that's sort of film we're talking about. Now, moving on from films you're going to be watching drunk to films you might want to watch high. The trailer for...
Or, behind away from the cops or something, is straight out of Compton. I thought this was a very, very good trailer.
Yeah, my favourite trailer of maybe the past year.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. It was, like, before this, I had no confidence in Straight Outta Compton, just because... this seemed like a musician vanity project, and when have those ever gone well? But they're focusing on the social issues. They've got guns, they've got girls, they've got the police telling them they can't play "fuck the police."
Yeah, it does have a different. It does have a sudden change in tempo halfway through the trailer.
Yeah, they've got action scenes with like urban combat, riot suppression tanks and guys kicking out windows. There's MP5s. There's. It looks like I think the trailer was like, it started off as kind of, there are a few guys making music in the room, and it was the definition of escalation, because by the end we're into the middle of the Rodney King riots.
Yeah,
and it's just like shit is popping off. It's like tanks are driving the fucking streets. Guys are throwing flaming barrels over bridges.
I can't believe you just said the words, things are popping off.
Yeah, that's something I said.
Okay.
It's if you can't tell by my voice, go watch the trailer. If you don't want to see the film, it's probably going to change your mind.
Yeah, it is worth the trailer's worth watching, and it'll probably make you want to watch that film. And Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad prequel, has now made its debut, and it was very impressive, and it brought in a good audience for them. But it is basically following the life of Saul Goodman, the lawyer in Breaking Bad, before he actually got his offices.
Yeah,
and it's I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was exactly what you'd expect from a Vince Gilligan wrote episode starring Saul Goodman, because there was the drama, there was the tension, but there was also the black comedy, and it really did nail it. And now we're going to get into spoiler territory, right? Because at the start of it, so if you haven't watched this yet, ignore this chunk of the podcast.
Yeah, this is where shit gets real.
Because okay, so I didn't expect it to start after the end of Breaking Bad, because it does, and then the whole show is a flashback for him.
Cool.
Yeah, So it's interesting in that. But it does kind of say, like, it's his frustration at trying to start his own, like, law firm, like.
Yeah.
But he's not even close to it, as in he doesn't even have an office. Well, he does have an office at the very back of a pedicurist, and, you know, as in it's a dinky little shite of a thing, and he's got no receptionist, and he's doing impressions of his own, as in he has to, when someone rings him up at his office, he has to do an impression of someone else, so that they think he has an actual secretary. But it is quite hilarious, because he's still using his original name in it. So, you know, we'll see what happens. And also there's a few nice cameos. So I don't want to, you know, it's interesting. And the thing is, 2 episodes were released, but I've only seen the first episode so far, and I'll probably watch the second one later.
Cool. So we're kind of going into the character's less than auspicious origins, then, right?
Kinda, yeah. As in, he's going to get into it, and it's already been suggested by him in this first episode that he should change his name.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in another AMC show made its comeback anyway, in the form of The Walking Dead, which came back for its season 5, second half of it. And well, if you're still listening, this is still very much spoiler area. In that we finally have the death of Tyrese. Now, we all kind of knew this was coming because of the way he'd been going on about it, and the what I can only call, I suppose, foreshadowing by the character Martin of the Hunters, where he basically he suggested that Tyrese could not survive in this world because he wasn't living in it. He was just going on about it, right? And that he wasn't willing to kill. They did a smart thing in that there was the funeral at the start. I think I actually mentioned this in the last episode, where we had what I thought, and I suppose most people thought, was the funeral, I should say, of Beth. And it turns out, no, it wasn't. It was the funeral of Tyrese, which it was shown at the start, and then during the episode, we're like suddenly surprised in that he dies, and then they show the funeral again. So, but it wasn't that fitting an end. Is the problem is that he was like looking at photos, and then he got bit. So I'm kind of annoyed at the way he died like that. But he got bit again later then, because they were just coming at him, and he just had to defend himself with his arm, which had already been bit.
So it was just basically, it's like they really wanted to make sure he was dead.
Yeah, but he also suffered a bunch of hallucinations, which saw a lot of old characters return, including Bob and the Governor, which was very interesting. But I heard later that they actually did this on a sound stage, so no one could see that David Morrissey was around the place.
Sweet.
Yeah, clever idea anyway. Otherwise, the whole thing would have gone to shit. But it was an interesting episode. But we also went back to Richmond, I should say that Noah went back to Richmond, and he only discovered that the place was completely gone to hell. And of course, there was a vital moment in it, in that the group, despite the fact that Eugene lied, will be going to Washington. So this obviously pushes this TV show further ahead in its original trajectory.
Cool.
However, all that being said, it looks like, despite the fact that Beth, probably one season's most useless character in the show, has died, it looks like Noah's picked up some traits, because after Tyrese got bit, he went off to get help, and then he was attacked by zombies before he could actually get to the rest of the crowd. So, you know, if Tyrese wasn't screwed before, he was screwed after that. But I honestly expected Tyrese to die maybe within this season or half a season, and or maybe at the start of next season. But I don't really. I think the character's curve was done.
Yeah, so it was his time to die.
Yeah, I think it was definitely his time to die. In fact, he knew it as well, and that was a big part of it. I'm not sure how I felt about that, but the thing is, I'll be honest. At this stage, he'd basically devolved into nothing more than the nanny for the baby. So, you know.
Yeah, that was just his time, man.
Yeah, it looks like Rick's going to have to be a hands-on father, I guess. But overall, you know, it was nice to see The Walking Dead back, and it was sad to see Tyrese go, because I did like him and his hammer smashing.
Okay, so this week I was going through an unrelated story when I was reminded that Hollywood is still planning on remaking Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, the Park Chan-wook film. And just like I appealed last week for Hollywood to please leave Japan alone, please just stay away from South Korea.
Funny enough, I thought you were that is stay away from my childhood.
Yeah, there was that too. Well, that wasn't exactly how I worded it.
That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. But, okay. Breaking it down. There's this guy called Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. He's a producer. You may know him from Transformers films and The Last Stand.
Bastard.
Yeah. Basically, just go look at his filmography. This is not one of the good guys. Working in tandem to kind of ruin South Korean cinema with this American company called Lotus Entertainment, who worked they worked on like really low tier, unambitious kind of thriller, horror-y stuff mainly. Are getting these two together are the sort of axis of evil who are remaking Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Now, I just want to
Is the director staying in like control of it, or what is? Are they
no,
bringing in the other guy?
I'm pretty certain there's no Park Chan-wook involvement, and thank Christ, because this is about what happens when America takes South Korean directors or South Korean material and tries to do it by themselves. Okay, South Korean material, Old Boy. Plus, there are about 1 million sloppy horror remakes.
So, basically, it's the idea that you can have the Old Boy, the original one that was actually done well, or you can have that one that was starring Josh Brolin, which was apparently chronic.
Yes.
Okay.
So first off, we've that. The more interesting story is that every time a South Korean director comes over to work in America, he ends up getting completely dicked over. First off, we have Kim Ji-woon, who was absolutely fantastic. He directed I Saw the Devil when he was over in South Korea, which is one of the best revenge thrillers I've ever seen. It's right up there with Park Chan-wook's work, who we'll be getting to later. I mean, it's very stylish, very violent, and very compelling, which are all the kind of elements you need for a successful kind of bloody murder thriller, really. Then Kim Ji-woon gets over to America, ends up making a dumb Arnold Schwarzenegger action film called Last Stand. That ends up getting it doesn't end up advertised. It doesn't do well in the box office, and it disappears.
Yeah, I've heard of that one actually.
Yeah. Next up, we have Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho is the guy who directed The Host, another well-known South Korean classic. Bong Joon-ho comes over to America. He was doing work for the Weinsteins, I think it's pronounced the Weinsteins, who are... They're basically Hollywood gods at this point in terms of producing. But he has a creative... Nearly everything, basically. Oh. They're busy guys. He has a creative disagreement with the Weinsteins over the film he's making called Snowpiercer. The result is that Snowpiercer gets its advertising budget cut.
Oh, yeah.
And it ends up in direct-to-video territory. Which is...
I didn't even know this one came out until it was, like, gone.
Yeah, it ended up in a bunch of critics' end of year top 10 lists.
Jesus.
Yeah, which it actually... The public demand for it after they found out how good it was, and they'd seen it was so high that the film actually had to expand its theatrical release.
Nice.
Which is a very rare thing. And finally, we have the case of Park Chan-wook. Park Chan-wook is the director of about 1 million great South American films, and the guy who directed the original Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, along with Old Boy. Park Chan-wook gets over to America. He directs a Wentworth Miller script called Stoker. And Stoker gets basically no advertising, and it gets pulled from cinemas very quickly. Yeah, there is a pattern here where it's like they bring over these South Korean directors to
slap them around the place a bit.
It's not exactly. It's like they let them do their thing. Really, it's like Snowpiercer.
They let him do his job, but they get into arguments with him, is it?
Yeah, they let Bong Joon-ho do his thing. Like, in the case of Stoker, that was a very Park Chan-wook film. Like, it had that whole kind of weird style to it. It was very off-kilter. And then, as soon as they see what's actually being made, they get terrified of it and just drop the project. So it's like.
So you don't think they're commercially viable, is it? That's what
exactly. Yeah, it's like they see the project and then they can't fucking sell the thing. And please stop. It's like if they're taking these. They're trying to get a different view, bringing over these directors who made very different films in a different culture. And then when they get a different film, they're surprised somehow.
The typical irony of that.
Yeah, it's strange. It's like, and Hollywood has repeatedly not learned this lesson that you can't cage these birds. It's Hollywood just can't handle these guys for some reason. Yeah, so please stop doing it. Please let them keep making good films elsewhere. If you're just going to put their films in a little box marked direct to video, for God's sake. So that is my rant for this week, which brings us very nicely to the end of the podcast.
I'm Owen Murphy, and you can find me on Twitter. You can tweet me, follow me, I don't care, at OwenM1990.
And I'm Fergal O'Connor. You can find me at Twitter at Interspammer.
And you can also find the show. You can follow us or tweet to us at Idiots Odyssey on both Facebook and Twitter. And you can also find us on our website, idiotsodyssey.com. And you can also email us, idiotsodysseypodcast@gmail.com. And as always, thanks for listening.